Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting and then I'm sure Mark will jump, he'll jump on, yeah. Yeah, so, welcome everybody. And actually, we do have public comment time, so I think it was kind of interesting to hear about the town issues. And I just wanted to say that I did look at the Huntington Rec Committee. They do have a budget of $16,000.
What?
Yeah,
What?
this is Huntington. Yeah, and so that was shocking to me because I wish I had brought it. I don't think it's in the car. So it was very interesting. They do soccer was a big program. And they had two other listings. Now I can't remember because it's the end of the day and I never my brain is fried. I'm just really, really tired too. So it was just interesting that, they kind of show where they put money out, but they keep about $16,000 in there for different things.
Allocated to something?
I think they
Just the rec committee
decide.
has to
Yeah,
decide?
I think they just kind of decide. I know that they did get a small grant and they're gonna be putting in new basketball hoops. The basket hoops, not the right name, but the whole thing. I don't know that they're paving the court, but I think it's the actual basketball. Yeah, they're kind of run down.
So
just
they
the
get
rims.
that much a year? That's just what they got this year.
No, I
The
think
rec
that they somehow keep a balance of that to do, whatever they see fit. I'd like to find out more, but it was very clear. It had
Yeah,
a special
that's
cutout.
nice.
That's what we need. It's a special cutout to say this is it. I still think that would be worthwhile to understand. Okay, now you're saying there's this over here and this over here and this over here. And, we've seen pictures of it, but yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. I got my solar eclipse glasses. And it went pretty smoothly. And so I don't know if you guys had anything did you guys go to town meeting or anything? No.
We have
Jack.
kids. It makes it kind of impossible to go.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Mark. He's probably eating. Yeah, so I was just thinking if there's anything else, nothing Conservation Commission wise. And then in Bolton, was there anything about rec or anything about, no, okay.
No, almost, the whole meeting lasted an hour.
Oh, it was quick
Wow, that's
too,
short.
yeah.
We had, this was yesterday. The way Bolton does it,
They-
it's
Oh.
They do it in the evening.
informational
Okay.
session
Yeah.
and then everything goes to Australian ballot today.
Oh,
nice.
okay.
And,
That's why you could go down to Richmond. Right, yeah, yeah.
and the bulk of the time was spent talking about roads.
Oh, yeah,
Surprise, surprise.
yeah, well,
And incredibly discouraging. I mean, Bolton, despite the fact that it's small and there aren't a lot of people there in terms of miles of road.
Yeah.
they have
Mhm.
Just about as much as anybody else.
Oh,
And
that makes
they
it.
did a commission last year to figure out what it would take just to bring the roads that we have up to state
Yeah.
standards.
Mhm.
And the budget came in at. It was an astronomical,
Sure.
$160 million or something
Jesus.
like that, and we've got available 250,000 or something. And
Yeah.
wow,
two floods completely
Right.
wipe out any hope they had of even getting caught up, so.
Wow.
yeah,
But it's, what's important to people? Well, the potholes are important.
yeah.
Bottles are a big deal, yeah.
Hey, Mark, did you listen to the Browns Court vote there at Richmond? And are you there? At the town meeting? I was assuming Mark was at the town meeting. Hello, Mark. You must have turned it on and walked away.
He must,
Yeah.
he's probably getting his food.
Well, Jack was saying that they basically voted not to make any housing development at Browns Court. So
That's good.
that really helps the Three Parks Committee. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Hey, did you hear about the Browns Court?
We can't hear you.
You're muted.
He's not muted, but he's not.
Oh, he's not muted, you're right.
Huh.
Thought he was. So they,
Well, wait, just,
so they voted today to keep
yeah, they,
Brown Square.
yeah, as a,
That's good.
park space or
So they're
whatever.
not gonna have more discussions about housing.
No, I mean, I'm happy that that happened since we didn't get the Vorak grant, at least.
Yeah, I
the
know,
Parks
right?
Committee can keep moving with the ideas, for there. Well, we're just doing public comment, Mark, so when you're ready, we were just talking about town meetings, is what we were doing, so once you can get your audio.
Huh, I don't know.
Someone must have put a
You
headset
could try
in.
leaving and coming back on. Sure, could try.
And read lips.
Right? Not very good.
Well,
though,
we'll do-
unfortunately.
We'll do the approval of the minutes and then we can loop back if you have a public comment about the town meeting day. Because the minutes should be easy to do. Okay, so we have two sets because we never did the December 5th. We weren't meeting in January. And then we have the February 6th was our last session. So I'm looking for a motion to approve December 5th minutes. And Kate,
Sure.
Second.
okay. Is there any discussion about this December 5th meetings? Any corrections or questions or clarifications? That's 2023, not hearing any. So, Mark, you'll have to do sign language for us.
Raise your hand.
All in favor? Say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Okay. Motion passes for the minutes on December 5th. And then the next set of minutes is February 6th, which was last month. Boy, can't believe it. Last month.
It has a
Yeah.
March already here.
Yeah, so a motion to approve.
Or
Second.
Oh, he said something. Okay, so same order. Any discussion about February 6th? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Okay. And the minutes, pass. Okay,
I have another non-agenda item. for
okay,
you.
good.
Um,
Back to public comments. Okay.
we are moving to Heinsberg.
Oh, my goodness.
When are you
What?
moving to
I have to
Heinsberg?
resign.
Wow, so you
You
sold the
got-
house and everything?
Yeah,
Ooh, that is
You bought
big.
another house already?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm not, we were like casually looking, somewhat casually.
That's
looking, but
great you
not
found.
while
I
we
know
were
that's
having a
amazing you
child.
found one.
That is
And
amazing.
we found a house and then we sold our house.
And you
in
like
3 days.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm not
my
surprised you
goodness.
sold
Yeah.
it fast.
We had 27 showings over one weekend.
When are you moving?
Next
Wow.
week.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, my goodness.
Talk
you-
about crazy.
You
Two
got a lot
kids,
on
new
your
baby
plate.
and
Wow.
moving next week.
So I wanted to come and this was
Yeah.
last minute or
Oh.
meeting.
Yeah,
But to also tell you guys in person that.
wow, I'm so excited
Yeah,
for
I
you.
know. But happy to be always a liaison.
Yeah,
Or point of contact, so
Heinsberg's a
Won't be
great
too
little,
far away, yeah.
great little town, yeah.
Needed
feels very
something,
much like Richmond.
needed something different.
And we would have stayed in Richmond
Yeah.
had we been able to find anything.
Oh, yeah, just
But-
wanted a different house.
Yeah, we were open to like Jericho and
Mhm.
everything. And there's nothing in Richmond,
No, there really isn't.
So.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Wow,
I
wow.
think you still found the house pretty close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were,
it's not
the
far.
location was
Yeah.
huge.
You're probably closer to Burlington. Isn't
No,
Heinsberg
We're
closer?
we're like
Really?
the same.
Not
distance.
really, yeah.
We're on
that's so
the
funny.
south end. We're gonna be on the south end of Heinsberg.
Okay,
So you still like all the way through the town and
yeah,
up
Yeah.
through Williston. So
Yeah.
it's actually very similar.
wow,
The Sleepy Hollow still and location was big.
wow, that is amazing, wow, well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Mark, did you get your mic to work? He's probably gone to ask.
Oh.
Yep. No.
Not working, no.
So,
going on?
you know what I usually do is, at the bottom of your taskbar, or you can punch in the start, yeah, the Windows start, you can type in audio. And I think what's happened is it's connecting to a microphone or something. It's not connecting, but if you do audio, it'll get you to the display board.
I think you can do it through Zoom too, if you move
True,
onto
probably
Zoom
just on the Zoom dashboard.
over on your sound. Usually
Check
there's
higher.
like where the microphone is, Mark, usually there's like which audio you're connected to, and that's what I found most often. You know,
Yeah,
Right.
maybe it isn't
Yeah.
connected to the computer audio or
Yeah.
something. That's true, yeah, if you just hit the little arrow next to the microphone.
I can,
Opens up
I
some
could
stuff.
probably share my screen to show them how. Let's see,
Never
where's,
been an issue before.
Right in the
It's
middle,
taken a long
Shay.
time.
yeah, where's the share?
There's the
button.
green icon.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, now, okay. So now mine's up here. It should be at the bottom. Oh, there it goes. See the little mic, you should be able to click it.
You might not be able to see that
Yeah.
you're presenting. He might only be able to see the Zoom.
Oh, and not that bar. Okay, I'll stop my share. Sorry.
It's true, I don't know if it'd show or not. Sounds like he knows what we're saying, but it's not working.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep plugging along. This might be a short
Or I
meeting
can,
at this
I
point.
can type
Okay.
stuff, but that would be a lot to type if you have quite a bit to say.
So the next item is about the snowshoe event. So Jack and I were able to do the Huntington one. It was too cold in Richmond. And then I got sick and I couldn't make it to the Bolton one, but just generally, we were gonna give you guys feedback and what we thought. So Jack, I don't know if you want to start and I'll add.
I would just say that it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway, perhaps, given that we don't have a long track record of recreational activity, so there aren't a lot of people necessarily looking
Yeah,
to us for ideas about what to
Mhm.
do. And combine that with the fact that it was a school vacation, which may have been more of a frustration than an asset. Anyway, the bottom line is they didn't come off as snow activities.
yeah,
I think if we had perhaps build them and design them around other things and then just happen to have snow
no,
activity
yeah.
as a possibility if the weather cooperated.
yeah.
But Richmond, it was zero on volunteer
But we
green.
did cancel it the day before.
Nobody
too.
was
Okay.
going
There
to
was
come
some
to
cold.
that.
There's snow?
There was no snow.
There might have been a little bit then, but there definitely weren't for the other event.
I sat in the parking lot there just in case somebody
Yeah.
showed up and they didn't. But we had I thought a really wonderful walk in the new public space next to the school in Huntington.
Yeah.
And
So a
then
few
the
people came?
next day in Bolton, we got no participation in the morning, which would have been the snowshoe part of the event. But in the afternoon, Ethan Tapper, the forester came and we had a really wonderful hike. Damn near killed me, but
Did some people come for his hike?
yeah,
Oh, that's good.
and so it can be done.
Yeah,
This particular one didn't fly well, but I think we were prepared and we made some friends. Derek, the principal at Bolton, was just delighted that this activity was going to happen.
Yeah.
And he was there participating. They pulled all of their snowshoes down off, the
Aw.
had them laid out in holes.
Even though there was no snow.
But the next time,
Yeah.
we went to Bolton to ask for activity at the school, I'm sure he'd be
Right.
right
Go on,
there.
do something
jumping.
similar next year.
And I think Ethan, walked away with it, having had a fun activity. I mean, he does
Yeah.
this a lot, but.
Yeah.
Sure.
This was another opportunity. So I made some friends and.
Yeah.
I'd call it a plus.
yeah. No, we had fun in Huntington. Just two people, Lynn and Rich, showed up and they were the people that registered. So, as you know, the registration does work. you know, people do see and they saw our posters and, you know, they sign up and stuff. But I would agree that definitely because we built it as snowshoe demo day. And we said we would have it, you know, snow or not, because we were gonna have other activities, but that probably you know, turning it around, I like that idea of just saying, you know, we're gonna have a gathering of doing XYZ, you know, and yep, we did tree identification and I'd never done it before. I couldn't, I worked with the other committees to try to find someone. And I asked like 4 people and they were all busy. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna do it. And so it's the first time I did it and we had fun. You know? And so we used an app and we had 9 common trees and we just looked at their bark and tried to look for signs of leaves and, you know, needles and stuff. And so I said, oh, it was a great
Stuff
time.
in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, without the leaves.
But I will tell you, if you have the right person, the other thing is if you have someone that's a draw, people will come. So
Right,
for
like with
instance,
Ethan Huff being there.
Ethan would draw people if you were gonna
Yeah.
do walks like in the new Richmond forest or the
Mhm.
Huntington forest or any forest. They're
Yeah,
gonna come because
names
they
that people
know,
yeah.
they know him. You know, and I'm sure if someone that really, that's why I didn't advertise that we're gonna identify trees. I just said, we're
Okay.
gonna have an activity, because I was gonna do it. So, but, you know, I think that I thought, you know, it's so funny because we did the green up day on green up day and I said, school break. Oh, it's the beginning. We can probably get some people, but I think we competed.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
it was worse.
families kind of had plans, you know?
People do travel during.
Yeah, and so I didn't think that was gonna be a competition, but I think it was.
Yeah.
So we kind of said it was too busy on green up day, like there were so many people around, but at least we had like, you know, 10 people show up.
Mhm.
But I think there is something about picking the right time to do it.
Yeah.
It is another, you know, if we had done it the week before, but I couldn't do it in Huntington because they had another event planned, a tracking
Yeah.
event. But that's when there was tons of snow because I went
Yeah, I
snowshoeing
think
Okay.
half of it was the
the
weather
week
too.
before. Oh, Mark, there you are. I can hear.
Because I think if we had snow, more people would have come out to
Yeah.
snowshoe. We're like, it's a snowshoeing
Yes.
event. No snow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're
How
just-
about this weekend?
Oh, it's supposed to rain.
I
Yeah.
think snowshoeing's done for the season, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think it is, but I do, you know, I mean, I think it's great that we have those snowshoes and,
Mhm.
it was the first time we tried to do like the 3 towns, an activity in 3 towns, and luckily with Jack's help, thank you very much.
Yeah. Jack
He
did all-
hauled the snowshoes, he had the hot cocoa and coffee and cookies and stuff like that. That made a world of difference, having this, you and or the others that were gonna volunteer come. So I would definitely recommend that if you're gonna do 3 towns, you know, consecutive days. So,
Right.
but I had fun in Huntington, so.
Nice.
And so we're gonna go, so Mark, did you want to, going back to public comment, was there any public comment that you wanted to make? That's not a non-agenda item?
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me. I just got home and I'm having dinner, so I'm turned
That's
off the video. But yeah, I had to reboot my computer to get the audio back. I don't know what that was all about. That was a first, but
Okay,
I tried everything you guys were suggesting and nothing was working. So finally, I just
that's all right.
reboot.
All
But
right,
yeah,
so we'll let you eat. And we'll just go through some of these items. So,
no, that's fine. If you want a recap of the town meeting.
oh yeah, so
Oh, sure.
anything that we should, you know, be aware of, I guess.
Only in the sense that the idea of the select board considering housing for the Browns Court Park was soundly rejected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the only real rec oriented topic that that was addressed.
Okay, yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, good.
It,
Thank
it
you.
went well. Yeah, there was strong community support for recreation there. There was some hints to the issues we're having in volunteers green, but I mean that really wasn't the platform to get into it. So
Yep.
I didn't say. And
Sign up there.
Right.
Passionate about keeping recreation. Okay, great.
Right.
Right? I know. I almost wanted to put a plug in for volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have.
Well, you know, we are at,
More volunteers.
yeah, we are gonna need that. We're gonna talk about recruitment, so we definitely need recruitment strategies at this point. All right, thanks, Mark.
Sure.
Okay, so back on the agenda, now we're gonna talk about the Three Parks Committee meeting. And, I was able to make their last session, which I think was February 28th, and Mark was there. And, so I gave you a link to review the minutes, but I did want to point out kind of three things that I thought were very interesting. First of all, they've really done quite a stand-up job with, you know, taking all the bits and pieces and assigning what the cost is going to be.
Mhm.
And they did have the one gentleman that came in, they had 3 bids on the playground, and the one gentleman who came in at the bid and provided all the information that was requested, you know, was $191,000. So that was right in line, you know, and they were, the committee was very interested to know as soon as possible, you know, how we do with the grant application. So I did include Jeannie on the email when I let you guys know. I know I didn't feel like waiting until this meeting. I just emailed you guys that we did not get the grant. So they did a little project where they went through, and it's just a first cut. So they looked at everything and they kind of, you know, ruled out some things like the tennis courts was one thing. I mean, it's not the end. It's not that it's decisive, but it was just a really good process I thought they used. You know, and they talked about Brown's Court. And so that was the combination of either multi-purpose or tennis courts versus the pickleball.
So just
And the pickleball they ended up getting rid of the multi, currently their budget is gonna take that multi-court thing out. Or was it the tennis courts? I can't remember. It was one or both. And so she just kind of did it on the screen. And I said, well, that's very interesting. And then I could see the playground, $191,000.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, good. They put the full amount in. I wasn't sure what they were gonna do, like if they were gonna just put in like half of it, because they were counting on the Vorak grant, but they put the full amount. So I was like, okay, that's a good thing. You know, and they were waiting to see if they could cut that, obviously, which, you know, now at this point, they definitely are struggling with the idea about, you know, the flooding that kept happening twice in one year. You know, so they've had a lot of conversation about the band shell not being really hard to kind of repair. But they're still looking into that. There's no historical value to it, but Jeannie had said at one of our meetings that she really felt like they could just do away with that and have a kind of pavilion, and the talk was moving the playground up there. And I was like, wow, that's genius. But there's still some issues about, is it high enough? Would it be floodway, what's the other term? There's 2 terms, floodway.
It might be flood.
Floodplain.
Thank you. And so they don't have a definitive answer about that, but
They still don't, because I'm uncertain.
no, they don't, because so one of the takeaways that Mark and I had is that they have a meeting scheduled for March 14th, and they would like to have a discussion about coming up with a list of questions to ask the planning. Is it the planning department, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really
So-
just 2 people. There's the zoning administrator and then the director of planning and zoning.
Yeah.
And,
So-
and
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Continue.
Okay.
I don't interrupt your eating, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say that when I tried to contact the planning commission before, or the department before, they were concerned about the mixed messages and the fact that different people were taking up different amounts of time. And so the goal was that if we could get together and discuss what it is we really want to ask them, the things we want to know,
Yeah.
and as a group, not just us, but the three parks and anyone else who's involved, then we can approach them with specific questions and not get attacked from multiple angles.
And so that was, so on March 14th, that's the idea, is that Mark volunteered to go, I volunteered to go, and Kate, you can go if you want. They, you know, it's a Thursday. And so I thought it was a good idea because, you know, just to, you know, we'd come up with what the questions are. And then the meeting would happen with the planning department, or we just send them the questions, you know. And so I think it makes a lot of sense because, you know, it's the one opportunity to really find out, like, is that a feasible plan to put the playground up there? And that it wouldn't be as damaged as much, because I know in the Vorak grant, I did put in something about we would have to have discussions about how we could mitigate or prevent as much damage that has happened in the past, because we did, I wrote in it that we were part of the flood incident in July.
Right.
So, you know, and I don't think December flooding had happened yet. I think I wrote the grant and submitted it before the December flooding. So, you know, it's interesting, you know, to think about, well, you know, he had talked to us about you could only take the existing play structure and the same footage and footprint, and you'd have to place it there. That was, you know, but the question is, okay, no, can you relocate it? And it would be the same, you know,
Yeah,
you know, structure. So, and I think there might be some more questions.
well, not real pertain to like, I think that's floodway, the lower level. So
Yeah.
like if the higher level isn't floodway, then you might not have to follow the same rules anyways.
Right. Well, but that's a small
I don't know.
space. It's
Yeah.
still a small space if you want to put two.
Well, I mean,
things.
yeah, you wouldn't want a big
Yeah.
playground anyways, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying. might not
Yeah.
have to be exactly the same, yeah.
And I think it would be worthwhile too, that if it doesn't get moved, this is the question to this group. Would we still want a playground in the current place? Let's say they say, no, you can't have it on the plateau. I call it the plateau. But you know, I think Mark and I were kind of alluding to, because we were thinking, if we've been on this playground, getting the playground upgrade for so long, that regardless, we would still want to have a playground in Volunteers Green. You know, even if we couldn't get it. But that's something like, didn't talk to the two of you about, but you know, certainly we were thinking of putting it right exactly where it was, but you know, if we could get it out of the water or the potential water, that would be the best case scenario. But let's say we can't. I still think a playground is worth having in Volunteers Green as an attraction. But you know, I just wanted to have a discussion with everyone here in this group. And then the last thing I would just say is, they're gonna get an extension, an official extension from the select board. So they are not, the Three Parks Committee is not presenting in March. They're not ready.
Okay.
And they've been told they can have an extension, but they are gonna go to the zoning board and make it official. And I thought that was a great idea. I mean, they're very dedicated and they're very thoughtful and strategic and pulling the information. And one of the best things about that is it gives more time for the public engagement. And so they're talking about not presenting until, I thought they said November.
Oh, wow.
Because the allocation of the funds is December.
Yeah.
And the idea is that it would be, you know, I mean, it's not like the select board don't have any idea about what they're planning. I'm sure they do. And again, there might be a changeover in select board people too. I
Some
don't.
of those select board members are on.
Yeah, so
Well, not
that,
back to me.
yeah, But anyways, I thought that that was great news for the rec committee too.
Yeah, I think
Um,
Jeff isn't on the select board anymore, is it Jeff?
I don't know.
Oh,
One of them was running.
Jeff got ran
Or-
again unopposed, and then
Okay. so it's
Adam
Jay who-
Wood and God, was it Matt
Okay.
Moultrup from Moultrup Farms?
I just gave
Those
Jeff and
two
Jeff.
guys were competing for
One
one
of them
seat,
was
and
running,
that's
yeah.
Jeff Forward is the one who's retired.
Okay. Yeah, so it's Jay who's not running.
Okay.
Yeah, so he is done.
You know, so there's gonna be a little bit of possibly a few people that move around in the select board depending on the outcome there. But again, I think the timing of that, it would have been perfect for the Vorak grant too, if we had gotten it. You know, I think, you know, it's interesting. It's like, well, they've got a lot of energy, and I think the collaboration is still something that's gonna, you know, turn out to be positive, even though we may have not
Right.
raised the funds. We
Mhm.
can certainly, like we always said, that we would help with the community engagement piece. They came to us and they asked us, well, what would you do to help coordinate or manage stuff at Brown's Court? And we said that would be very limited.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
because
Can't really do
you know, we'd rather see like the senior center who has a mechanism for how they can reserve pickleball courts, you know, or something like that. So I think there's those kind of conversations to be had, but I think we were pretty clear that we have limited ability to, you know, for the actual organization or
Yeah, I
managing
think
or.
the only thing really we mentioned was like people could use like our feedback form on like the
Feedback form,
website,
yeah.
and we could, you know, follow up on that if there's like issues or things that need to be addressed. But
Yeah.
that is the main thing. I think
Yeah.
that we said we could support.
Yeah. So we want to just kind of reiterate that kind of stuff, because as they go forward with their plans, they are thinking about, well, what does that mean to help with, you know, I think there's some misinformation that we do programming. Well, we've tried a couple of things, you know, but, you know,
we
you
don't
know,
have the people power.
yeah, we don't have a group of volunteers behind the scenes to help out either. So anyways, that's kind of what I got out of it. Anything, Mark, to add from the meeting? Talked about the March 14th, come up with a list of questions. The budgeting process, the extension to the presentation.
No, other than the details about what they're actually
Yeah,
posing, which is pretty straightforward, you know, some bocce ball courts and some pickleball, and
Right.
revamping the softball field. That's
yeah.
the gist of the meeting. Yes.
Yeah, and that's Brown's Court, and then in Volunteers Green, I think it was benches, picnic tables, moving the playground, possibly getting a pavilion and not renovating the band shell. Was it, and the track is still with gravel, not a paved, but a gravelly track for walkers.
Mhm.
Was there anything else, Mark, on Volunteers Green? And then some benches up at the round church, I think. Yeah.
In a nutshell, yeah, that was about it. Yep.
Yep. And it's amazing. They're still over the budget, like with that kind of stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, you know, all right.
I just had a few thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Mostly for the notes, Kate. I agree. I think that the playground on Volunteers Green is still worthwhile, even if it's not moved. But two things that came to mind just as questions are proximity to the riverbed edge, just thinking about small children.
Yeah.
And if there'd be any preventative measures that were even allowed to be built. Again, in a floodplain, fences are an issue.
Right.
And then if we couldn't move it up there, then being really intentional about the elements that were chosen for the playground.
Mhm.
Because right now the playground that exists, it is slightly raised.
Mhm.
So, a lot of the water can kind of pass through, and I think that's been a saving grace. Not that it was intentionally designed like that, but it is a little bit up. And it does require steps up. Well, that's gonna be limiting to other abilities.
Yeah.
So I know that that's gonna come into concern of like, there might be a lot of zero grade things, which
Right.
is good, but is it gonna be bad if it floods? And so picking things that are not so, that are already at ground level, but are not so prone to that kind of thing. I'm thinking like the spider web that one of the companies
Yeah.
had, and that like where everything's already on the ground, but it also allows for a lot of water pass through.
Yeah,
So again, I'm just making comments. I'm
yeah, no, that's great.
asking for discussion or anything, but I
No,
did
that's
get to meet
great.
with all three reps with Jeannie before I went on maternity leave, so that was
Yeah.
kind of nice to talk to everybody about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. No, those are good points. And thank you for saying that it's, you think it's still worthwhile, and these are the considerations to try to save it.
Yeah.
From water if it stays where it is at.
Yeah. Even
I,
thinking
I,
if you put things in line, or do you put things out to the sides, like those are,
Yeah.
it kind of seems like a silly thing, but it literally could save pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I was just saying that I think any step forward with volunteers green is gonna want to start bringing in public comment, because I think there's a contingent that would like to have the playground removed, and if we can't put it on the plateau, we just have it removed and non-existent. I don't agree with that. Sound like you didn't necessarily agree with that as individuals, but I think there's a voice out there in the town that does. And so I think we need to, if we go down that route and we can't put it on the plateau,
Yeah.
we will need to do some community outreach and get people on board with it before we do maybe our next VORAC grant. Because I'm not sure that the ARPA money is going to cover all of Brown's Court and the pavilion and the playground anyways, just by itself, because I think
Right,
some
they
of the
gotta
expenses are plus also redoing the baseball fields. So on top of redoing the softball field up above, I think there's an intention to fix the
Yeah,
baseball fields. And if they do that, there really isn't gonna be a lot of extra coin for a $200,000 playground. So then we need to talk about, do we even want to remove it then? Do we want to rehab it at least for the next year to make it minimally as safe as possible? But if we go and say, all right, well, let's pull the playground, and then it sits a year, then there's no going back. We can't put the playground back, because then we'd be adding a structure theoretically. It depends. Again, this depends on the interpretation of the department, but they could argue that, oh, you removed the playground because you thought it was unsafe, and therefore you can't put it back because zoning doesn't allow new structures in the playground, in the floodway.
that should be one of our questions then. That's
Yeah,
definitely one of those questions.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to.
Put something else in, yeah.
Do people not want the playground because they want the money allocated somewhere else, or they actually just not want the playground from your experience?
A little bit of both.
Okay,
I think a
interesting.
little bit of both, but I definitely think that there is a contingent that wants nothing in the floodway,
Yeah,
and doesn't want to spend any money on putting anything back in the floodway, because it will be damaged at some point in the near or distant future. And unfortunately, we're coming off of 2 big storms in 1 year.
1 year,
So
yeah.
it is just, everybody's like, oh my God, this is what we're gonna see every year for the rest of our lives. And why waste the money on that versus, okay, it was kind of a fluky year. And yes, there are global effects, and yes, we are supposed to get more rain in the Northeast, and this year's lent to that, but does it completely negate any use of volunteers green for structures, just because we may see a little bit more frequently? And that's gonna be a hard conversation.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Kate, what about you? What do you think about putting it, again, if it can't be on the high ground, but a new playground in the existing.
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate, but at the same time, I don't want to not have a playground at Volunteers Green either, because I think that would be a huge loss for the community and for families, so I'd probably lean towards putting another one in.
Those kids use it. I mean, even like, it looks like it is like half the size it used to be. I don't know if that's the case, or am I just forgetting what it looked like? It doesn't look the same to me anymore.
Yeah.
And that, like, did we lose some pieces?
I think they took out a slide
Oh, maybe that's
on
it.
one of the big structures that sort of stuck off to
like-
the side, and so, yeah.
Really
can
looks
have
tiny right now. It looks
Yeah.
like it's like, I don't know. It look, I mean, yeah, I mean, I just know that, kids love to play on playgrounds, and it's a beautiful space in the center of town. So, I mean, I think that goes back to the fact that we always, I mean, even like way back, we were talking about, is the July flood. Is there a way that because the parking lot was paved and not gravel anymore, did that do something that created the big moat? So I think we've always been thinking about, before they had the idea of putting it up higher, is like, well, there's got to be something that can help divert the water from, doing as much damage, or the way it's built. So I think we still go down that path. And I guess I don't know if the other thing I do wonder is, we didn't have another inspection after the December event.
Yeah.
We had an inspection back in June before it got going, and they said it was safe enough for people to do, but we haven't had one since. So that just says, probably in the spring, they should just have an inspection just to look and see, okay, you've had 2 floods here. Now, how's it look? Is there anything that can be done to just kind of, again, maybe just keep it there until there's a plan for where the new playground goes. But hopefully, by November, there would be a better idea.
Or like Jersey barriers or something. I know once the water's up at a certain point, it might actually make it worse depending on how the flow is, but
What's a Jersey barrier?
Yeah.
the,
Is that just like the
Concrete.
road concrete barrier?
yeah, like the road,
Ah, okay.
concrete road barriers. Sometimes
Oh.
you see them in the middle of highways, right, to divide the two
Yeah.
directions.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do they put them in temporarily, or is that a permanent
they're not-
structure?
Yeah.
Basically be left.
yeah, they usually.
Really?
I don't think you
Okay.
have to fasten them, but I think you can.
Wow.
Oh.
But also nice to like keep cars from, again, hopefully without ill intention, like a car
Yeah.
proceeding in towards the playground.
Yeah.
There were people there.
And I think Jeannie did look into going back to the fence idea if the playground was up higher. I'm trying to remember, she did look into that, because that was a concern, because the river's right there. And I thought she said there's a natural barrier there. There could be more of a natural barrier to keep kids from
Yeah.
going,
But
wandering, because I
shrubbery.
don't think that they're gonna let us put a fence up, but that would be a question. So I think we add that question too. Whether or not there gonna be a safety barrier, somewhere, on one side. I don't know if it can be a one-sided fence, or it has to be around the whole structure.
Oh, there's a highway too.
Yeah.
It would require fencing. If
Yeah.
the kids are gonna be up there playing, the sidewalk would have to be fenced out, probably down to the parking lot. And
So
then
let's ask, we gotta
and
ask
the
that
back-
question.
the back
Yeah.
splash towards the river would also need to be fenced off. It's
Well, then-
way too easy for a 2-year-old to tumble.
Yeah, so we will ask that question too. There, we got 2 questions already.
At least.
Okay. And Mark, I did want you to report out on the planning commission meeting on February 21st, which is before we met with the the three parks. Was there anything else to add about, I mean, it sounds like, again, they want us to get organized and have our list of questions, but was there anything
Well,
else?
that's not coming from the planning commission.
Oh,
That's coming from the director of the planning and zoning department.
Okay,
Because he doesn't want to waste any more money, aka hours or any time period from the zoning administrator. Because
okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so
To be efficient with the time, okay, and that's what you learned on the 21st and you shared with the three parks committee on the 28th about getting our questions together.
right. I basically I think Jeannie came and she was there too, and we basically just briefed the planning commission on what we're doing and why, and explaining to them that what we are now doing, which is considering, you know, combining with three parks and getting all of all of our eggs in one basket, I guess.
Yeah.
Ducks in a row, and I know an analogy of probably before we have any more conversations. But that was it, and they're on board with that. I don't. They may be up to talking zoning about changing zoning regs.
Yeah.
But I didn't like get a hard commitment from them because from the rest of the committee because we just have so much on our plate right now with the Jolena Court build out. They want to change the zoning there, and we're in the midst of redoing the Village North and the Village South zoning districts to be compliant with the new Act 47 that came out of the state, which mandates lot sizes of less than 5 lots per acre. Zoning is basically mandated in any community that has public water and sewer. Any area that has public water and sewer has to have at least 5 lots. So there's some things we're juggling right now, but at this point, without the VORAC grant and with the likelihood of having capital to completely rebuild the playground, we basically are buying ourselves a year of discussion until maybe the next VORAC grant where we can take the time to get these other things off of the planning commission's plate and then put the volunteers green back on it in a more productive way, in a way that would maybe.
You're still thinking at some point about having them review the rules or regulations, and maybe there can be
changes
in the reg.
Right.
Yeah.
The flood hazard overlay district, as it's defined in Richmond, is much stricter than FEMA.
So here's my question. Isn't there a waiver process? Usually any regulation has a waiver process. Was that ever built in?
No, I really tried to do that when we wrote it. I really tried to actually get something in there for town property, aka Volunteers Green, because I knew it would be an issue, but it never really sailed. And so there weren't any distinctions between the regulations that govern private land versus town-owned property, which I think it would be a reasonable classification, maybe stricter for private property, and less so for the general good of the community on town property. But that's again, something I think need to talk about, and hopefully we'll have some opportunities with the Three Parks Commission too, as this moves forward over the course of 24, so that we can, between us and the three parks, begin to get some idea of what it is that we want to be able to allow and contrast that with what FEMA would allow, and then see where we can go. Because I mean, we could actually fill up the park, like even if the plateau is still in flood plain, probably not floodway, that elevation, but even our flood plain says you can't build anything new. But we could at least change regulations that would allow the floodplain to have new structures, or even add fill to take it out of the floodplain, which is also a legal thing in FEMA world, not in Richmond world.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that was mentioned also at the Three Parks Committee, something about, even the band shell is a little bit low to the ground. It would have to come up 6 inches or 12 inches to be, yeah, I was like, really?
I don't know if we got the final zoning on the elevation of that plateau.
I think they're still
Last-
working on it.
Right. So if it is, it was offered that maybe we could just raise it up, and technically you could raise a building up to take it out of the, well, you can raise a residence up right now in the current Richmond zoning regs, but you can't raise a building or anything else. Like, you couldn't make your shed fill in dirt to raise your shed up out of the floodplain, but
Yeah.
you could do that to raise your house up out of the floodplain.
Huh, wow.
Safety issue.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I said, there was a very strong contingent of a very conservative approach to floodplain when the regulations were written, and now we're paying for it.
yeah,
Mhm.
it does complicate things, because we're having a financial complication because we weren't able to get the Vorak grant. So that doesn't free up, some of the Three Parks budget so that they can, say, oh, you guys got the 100 grand, so okay, we only have to worry about 90,000.
Is there still unallocated funds though for ARPA?
They have the last of it, I thought. I thought they had the last 450,000 and all the other
Not
money was
confirmed.
allocated.
Like before I left, there's still on some unallocated.
Was there? Okay.
I thought
I
this
didn't
was
know
allocated
that.
It wasn't like an
too.
amount necessarily. It sounds like there was just an
Okay.
understanding that there was more.
Oh,
But
I
maybe the
didn't
Three
know
Parks
that.
Could get more than.
Well, that's actually,
Talking to Jeannie about that.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
very interesting. I didn't remember hearing that,
Don't
but
have anything until you have it, but.
yeah.
Right.
And maybe I will raise that question to Three Parks Committee and just say, hey, we were having a conversation and we were wondering, I know you got an extension to your when you're presenting, but are you truly, there might be at more than $450,000
They might not
there.
know. Just,
They may not know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just- I might guess that's.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, well, another piece of the puzzle. So as far as moving on to the grant application update, so it's interesting, Mark, when you talk about, writing another grant. I mean, certainly the whole point of the ARPA funding is to allocate or obligate the money for XYZ, right, by December of this year.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean you have to have it all spent. It just means that this is your plan, for how you're gonna spend it. The problem with the Vorak grant is, so I know sometimes 3 times is the charm, and so we've written it twice, and we got knocked out. But I'm frankly not gonna be around to write the Vorak grant, because that's on our agenda. We're gonna talk about recruiting new committee members. My term is up this year. And I've decided not to re-up because I want to work on the trails in the Huntington Community Forest this summer. And so I only try to do one volunteer thing. So I'm not gonna be around to do the Vorak grant. So that's always not that there might be another committee members that could focus on that. But I do, I mean, I think it's worth it trying to write for grant money, but then I also was wondering, is there any other way to raise money? Like we talked about asking for money for the next budget, which we missed this year's budget, but it would be for the 25, 26 budget. I don't even know if that timing would work. You know, and asking, I mean, whether it's ARPA money or some capital reserve money that they'd put in the budget for next year's, March, town meeting, you know, $50,000, $75,000 for a playground or something like that. You know, we get all the engagement stuff could happen. We always had that on the radar. That's something that could be a one-time ask. And maybe that would be, have more probability of being, you know, educating the community, people voting on it. They say, oh yeah, we got the ARPA money, part of the ARPA money, and not the whole ARPA money for the playground, but part of it. Because if there are people that are concerned that they don't want the ARPA money going for the playground, we could say, oh, we got this other money too that's going to go towards it. So just something to think about. But certainly we have the old grant to work off of. I just don't know how competitive we can be for just getting a playground. That's my concern with the grant application. I think it had a lot of merit, but I think they're picking certain types of grants that maybe a playground doesn't really, you know, meet their criteria, you know. So I'm just putting that out there as a possibility, but I won't be writing the grant. So, yeah, I'll be doing stuff in Huntington.
That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, you know, I'd been thinking about it, and I've been co-chairing for I think 2 years now, because I have a 2-year term because mine's shorter than the Richmond one, and I think I started before.
3 years.
I think I've been on the committee for 3 years.
Yeah,
Because
I'm pretty sure I've been on for 3.
yeah, I've been on for 3 years, but I have a 2-year term, and I have decided that I'm not going to re-up. So, you know, not to say that I don't mind being called if you guys need help with something. I mean, I'm perfectly fine doing that, because sometimes that's almost easier to just be a side volunteer. So if you need help, I'll come, you know, and you know, so I could probably do that. I could probably help write the grant, you know, even if I'm not on the committee. So, you know, just because I did it before. So anyways, so as far as recruitment, which leads to the next thing.
Right, leads into next.
So I've actually already talked to Huntington about recruiting, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to first reach out to the rec committee in Huntington. I'm going to ask the chair to share the information with the rest of the group that it would be great to have a liaison from the Huntington Rec Committee be on this committee, just because I think that, you know, if you look at our vision and mission statement, you know, I just think they're going to be really good at being able to oversee and design a variety of diverse recreational programs accessible to all residents, improve access to a variety of recreational activities promoted throughout the 3 towns. I just think that, you know, they're more, you know, knows what the community in Richmond wants as far as recreation. It's like the basketball courts. I had no idea they were so popular, but I guess the basketball courts are very popular in Huntington, and we're getting new hoops. So, I think I'll start with them and see if anyone is interested, and they could be on both this committee and liaison back to the Huntington Rec Committee. I just thought that would be kind of a good setup. And then if that doesn't work, then I would then do a broader reach to Front Porch Forum probably. And I'd start doing that this month to see if I could line up someone, because it would be great to have someone like come to a meeting just to see what we do and stuff like that. So if we could get someone in here, they could just, you know, kind of watch by Zoom or whatever. So that was my strategy. And so I don't know what else, you know, now. So I don't know if you had any ideas for, you know, someone that you know that might be willing to take over for you leaving, or I keep wondering if Kate, the other Kate.
Oh, he used to be on the committee. Is she
Yeah, I
interested in
keep
back in?
wondering, I
Yeah.
don't know if you know her very well, or if she's someone that might be interested in coming back. She had a baby like
If
2,
she's too
3 years
busy with her
Yeah.
kids.
ago. Yeah.
I can ask her, yeah.
Oh, okay, that would be great. Just, just to see if she's interested, because she was here. Is it Anderson? No. Is it Kate Anderson? Okay.
That's right.
I was like thinking.
That's
okay.
good you remembered. I
Yeah, I was like, I think I know the name. And as far as Bolton, so Jack, what do you think about Bolton? I mean, would you be interested in being on this committee?
You need more to do, Jack?
I just thought I'd ask you since
You
you're
don't have
here.
enough at the senior center.
Or,
You're here anyway, you might as well get credit.
You
can-
but then you have to be here.
you can zoom it, but it's so funny because there is something about kind of being a volunteer on the outside that I really like.
This is also the commitment. If you don't show up, no one cares.
Well, like you can ask me for one-offs, and I'll say, sure, because I'm sure that
Right.
if you guys say, can you help with the Vorak grant, I'll say
You
yes.
don't have to do as much.
So, you don't have to answer now, but
I'll get back to you.
okay,
And for that matter, throw the net
yes,
back to Bolton. Bolton is going through a transition administratively. We just lost Amy, who's been with us forever.
Yep.
And added 2 new characters who are newbies, so
yeah,
they're anxious to be cooperative and
yeah.
not that this committee necessarily wants politicians on it, but yeah, I'll think about it. See what.
I mean, I did wonder whether or not to contact Kathy again. But I know that she left kind of on,
Oh, Kathy, who left?
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
thought she had some great ideas and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That was when, so
Probably wouldn't come
Kathy
back.
left after the new committee was, set up and, kind of left us out of the picture as far,
3 parts.
the 3 parts, yeah. Yeah, that,
She was only on for a few months, right?
yeah.
Kind of my question is this a time to revamp though, too? Like if Huntington has their own rec committee, it seems odd
I know.
that we have a committee that's supposed to include Huntington.
yeah, they have
It's a
like,
good time to have a
They really
discussion.
got it together.
they got 8 people on that
Oh my gosh,
committee.
yeah.
I would like looked and said, wow, they could much
I
bigger.
don't know if they'd really be interested in joining a Richmond rec committee when they already have their own.
Right.
And you know what? I will tell you though, Huntington lists my name on every annual report that I am the Richmond Rec Committee or the Greater Richmond
yeah.
Rec Committee representative. So, and they contacted me and asked me if they wanted my appointment sent to the
Oh.
select board. And
Nice.
so Huntington is on it.
Yeah,
Like if they
they're
have a
doing-
commitment, then they try to fill it. So.
But
so-
it might
It
be
just
worth
doesn't seem like
having
they
a
ever got the
discussion.
question
Yeah.
answered too about like what the select board wants.
I was gonna
So
say maybe
I
the
wonder
third
like
one.
once the 3-part committee
Yeah.
is like long-term, a year, 2 years. from
They
now,
are,
they're done, then like what is the select board gonna want? Are we gonna be back in the same boat of,
yeah.
oh, we don't trust you guys to handle money?
Well, it's very,
Yeah.
it's very interesting because I know the 3 Parks Committee, I mean, Jeannie has said they're in it until it's done. I mean, so it sounds like they're committed. I mean, they've at least are going through until November, and I think they're going to go beyond November because I think they're going to help if you
Yeah.
need volunteers. It's a very cool name, 3 Parks Committee. I like it, instead of, I don't know, I just like, well, 3 Parks Committee, that's very interesting. So I don't think it'll be a permanent committee. It's an
Right.
ad hoc committee. And I think they're always thinking, so that's the one thing that's great about working with them is they always say, well, in the long term, what's the recreation committee's ability? So
Right.
you need a rec committee in Richmond.
Mhm.
You do need a rec
But the
committee.
question is like, would it be worth like talking to the select board in Richmond? Like,
Yeah.
The select board
should we
needs to
still
tell
do
us
a
what
thr-
to do,
should we
right?
still have a 3-town committee or do you
Should it
feel like
just
we
be
should just be
Richmond?
Richmond?
What's our budget?
Cause if we're gonna
actually?
change,
What
like
the-
it'd be a
yeah.
good time to change it.
Yeah,
like-
what's our budget?
Give us
Yeah.
Numbers.
Huntington has 16,000, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, little town of Huntington.
Like, what are we
What are we
doing
in charge
here?
of? Like,
Well, what are we in charge
like,
of? What do
when
we
the
get?
playground gets flooded, like, are we
Yeah.
prompting that? Like, what's
Who do you want
happening?
on the committee?
Well, now that's very interesting. So the proposal is, maybe before we go forward on recruitment, is this an opportunity to ask the select board, is it time to switch and go with
Right.
just Richmond? And can you give us a defined budget to work with? Those are two reasonable
Yeah.
questions. Can we, Mark, didn't Lisa say that she'd be the liaison and we can ask her the question so we don't necessarily have to go to a select board meeting? I thought she said she
Yeah.
was
She's
liaison.
yes, she'd be. First of all, Lisa's always happy to take any type of questions and calls
Yeah.
from folks. She's
Yeah.
really makes herself very available to everyone.
Yep.
But that being said, I almost wonder if we're going to take on some sort of administrative role and responsibility in finance, I think we need to have a sit down with Josh about, okay, what are you doing now? Who's doing it now? Who's coordinating all of this purchasing and repairs and maintenance and scheduling that? Because it's all happening already by someone. It's just not us. And I don't know if it was ever intended or I certainly don't think it was intended that we would be the financial stewards of the money. We would come up with ideas and do whatever, but nothing really, I don't think, I don't think there's anything in our charter that says, okay, this is it. Now, maybe we should. Maybe that's exactly what we should be doing, is having more of a fiscal responsibility, and that would then allow us to make better plans because we'd actually know what we had and what we could spend it on. Right now, we really don't. I still do not know what our budget is. I hear our budgets is tens of thousands of dollars, but I have no idea where that money comes from, who makes a decision on who spends it where or
Yeah.
what. That's totally out of our hands. And maybe it should be. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it should be in our hands. And then from there, we can build a stronger rec committee with more concerted focus. I think we've done some great stuff over the years.
Yeah.
The website and these the efforts to bring the community together, and the snowshoes, the
Yeah.
clean day, all those things are great,
Yeah.
but we do it without a net, without any, fiscal responsibility or guidance. And maybe if we had that, then we could be like, oh, okay, this is how much money we have for recreation. Do we want to spend it on, do the outreach? Do we want park benches? Do we want new playground? Do we want what? Right now, I still have no idea. I don't know if you guys do. Do any of us here know
No,
exactly what our
We don't
fiscal?
We don't have control over anything. I mean, the town has recreation budgets, but we don't get to say how it's spent.
yeah.
People in the town do. We can recommend things that should be done, but we don't have any control over it.
Well, all you hear is how recreation has been and reinvestment and maintenance has been utterly neglected for the last 20 whatever years.
Yeah.
But we're magically supposed to be able to address that without any funds,
Yeah.
Right.
or any stewardship of
Order.
of the financials. That's really tough to know what our actions should be. And that I think would start with Josh. He's the town manager. He's the one who ultimately is spending the money. The select board says what gets spent, but ultimately Josh is the one writing the checks and coordinating the maintenance and deciding what's getting spent where.
Yeah, as a
obviously he delegates, but
Yeah, I think the issue is that the committee needs an actual line in the budget, because I do have what they presented to me that's part of the fiscal year 24 budget expenses. It's called Recreation and Trails. It's a total for fiscal year 2024, the one we're in, of $30,204. But it has nothing to do with what we do. It has recreation salaries, social security, Lake Iroquois Recreation District, insurance, electricity, water, sewer, trash, park maintenance, trails, rec, equipment, special events, conservation commission supplies, volunteers, green parking lot, 4th of July fireworks. So that's all stuff we have nothing to do with. That's all stuff that Pete does. Joss says, go do this or whatever, you know,
Exactly.
and so usually a committee in a town has recreation committee. You have $1,000 to use for whatever programming you need. So that would be a request that the budget includes some kind of line at our discretion to do what we see as fit. And I would like to know, like, does the trail committee have, like, you know, how much money?
Back when I was on it, they got a small amount for trail work, but it was less than $1,000.
Okay.
So
So
that's
that-
mostly for buying wood and tools and
Yeah,
stuff
so I
for
think,
trails.
yeah, and I'm so
Could
used
have changed, but
Yeah, so I think that's it, is a lot of committees work off of very small budgets in these towns. I mean, you know, the Conservation Commission, they get a budget line item in Huntington of 16,000 a year.
okay.
But it goes into the fund, and then if
Right.
someone wants to come and apply, then the commissioners work on the application, so.
Right.
So there's not, like, for future recreation installments or something, there's not like a line item in the budget. And then the rec committee would oversee how does that money get spent on programming or infrastructure stuff that happens, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah,
That's
I
exactly.
mean, yeah, and so I think there's two things going on here. Then the fact is the select board needs to know that the rec committee is shrinking down in size because people are, you know, leaving for good reasons.
I'm also not
Yeah, I was gonna ask
reapplying,
you.
Mark,
Okay.
sorry.
Ah!
Yeah,
I've been on committees.
At least I won't be late for any of the meetings.
well, so
For personal reasons to have some more
All
time.
the
There's
meetings
a
start at
chorus that I used to
7:10.
do on Tuesdays that I would love to get back to, and I
so
just need a break from.
I'm feeling sort of the same way. I feel
years I've
very
done.
underwhelmed in appreciation and functionality of how we're being handled. And if things don't change, then there really isn't any point in a rec committee. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
and maybe if things changed, then there would be a point and there would be more motivation for you guys to come back or for new people to come on and do it and have a rec committee that actually exists. But what's the point of having I can't say what's the point because we did good stuff.
I know.
I should clarify, you guys did good stuff. You know, we accomplished some good things
Yeah.
that's better off for the town. But ultimately, a lot of it has been, you know, trying to get grants that don't come through and
Trying to make ourselves known. I mean, we spend a lot of time just trying to, you know, so people.
Like just creating the committee, like so much work.
Yeah.
Just creating the
just
structure.
recreate it not
Right.
that long ago. Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, I would propose then, that I'm gonna email Lisa and I'm gonna say we're coming to a crossroads where, we're down to one committee as of
One member for Mark.
one committee
As of
member.
June.
And that the
the
select,
least engaged and the least productive of all of you. And
You
here
are
I
the
am, last man standing. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I didn't get burned out with the frustration as much as you guys may have.
Well, that's not my other reason.
no,
There's lots of other.
Just broke a question here.
yeah,
For whatever political reasons, and I really don't understand the subcurrents.
yeah,
In
yeah.
Richmond, but this three parks committee suddenly surfaced with
Mhm.
what seemed like a very public or at least political endorsement. I mean, it seemed like they were empowered to be the new guys.
Yes.
of
Yes.
Yeah, they got
recreation.
$400,000 budget.
They can be the rec
That being
committee.
the case,
Yeah.
rather than being in a position of saying, we have, that we're fading away.
Right.
Is there some way that we could, combine or lend a hand to the three parks committee? Maybe, sneak your letterhead into their letterhead or anyway, politically meld those two
Yeah.
streams. And then
Right.
somewhere down the
Yeah.
line, hold hope against hope that you could be the voice in that committee, at the very least for the children's playground. Rather than trying
Yeah, I
to
think-
justify ourselves outside
Mhm.
this committee that seems to have been
Yeah.
given the torch.
I think actually we have been collaborating with them and they know that the playground is our target. So I feel we've accomplished that. And so what's happening though is that, I don't know if it's May or June is the last meeting I go
I
to.
think it's May.
I think
June
May is my last meeting, so I'll continue to work with the three parks and continue to do
Right.
this. But then there's gonna be a cutoff and I'm done, and so.
You're gonna have to figure something out. yeah.
So they're
I'm
gonna,
just wondering whether there isn't a very elegantly crafted statement
mm,
that talks about the transition into that committee as
Hmm.
opposed to a
Yeah.
statement about
Yeah.
this committee is no
Well,
longer.
well, that committee is actually that is a short-term
It's meant
ad
to be a
hoc
Yes.
meeting.
But maybe they
But the
could
first
change
time
it.
I heard about it, it was going until March.
Yeah.
And now it's going
Yeah,
in
true.
November and I.
Well,
think
they need
everybody
till-
knows that it's gonna have.
But I'm not planning on joining that.
And maybe
committee
it's
either.
in
Get too much on my
support
plate.
of that
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a
Yeah.
good point, but and I see your point, and I think that, I think what I'm concerned about is just giving them notice that you're gonna be down to one member as of May. I mean, you're gonna be down to 3 as of now, because this is your last meeting.
Right.
And then you're gonna be down to 1 member by May,
Who's the they that you're
the select board.
selecting?
Because they had originally set this, they
Yeah.
reinvigorated the rec committee in Richmond. The rec committee in Richmond has had its starts and stops.
Mhm.
They were
Yeah.
15 years ago, they were doing stuff, and then 10 years, for a decade, there was no rec committee.
Well, to be fair, it was a one-man rec committee for like 10 years, so you got this, Mark.
Yeah.
There
That's
you
right.
go.
I'm gonna have to give Harlan a call and see if he can, we'll get together on Fridays for a beer. That'll be.
You can walk around volunteer screen.
And they
Yeah.
really were like the whole, it was all like just going around and doing odd jobs and
Good.
fixing things and, I mean, it was
Right.
The
very,
real stuff.
It wasn't like
the
a
real
formal
stuff, but
committee,
not
just
the
kinda
formal
fix stuff as
sitting
they
and
see it.
meetings,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, I think it's a perfect opportunity for them now that they haven't had a Bolton rep for a while. Their
Mhm.
Huntington rep is leaving, and so if they decide to, the question is, okay, so your rec committee is down to 1. Do you really want to have Bolton and Huntington involved? Huntington has their own rec committee. Bolton probably does too. Is it now time to not do that? And is the
Mhm.
focus really on the transitioning of the 3 parks has a lot of, kind of effort behind, and somehow from there, that becomes the new rec committee after the ARPA funds are obligated. That's what I would say.
Right.
You know,
They're like,
I don't
whoever
think
wants to
those
stay on.
people want that, though.
They don't.
They all joined
Yeah.
specifically because it
It
was
was-
very intentional and
Yeah.
very like hands-on
Focused.
work.
Yeah.
And it was very short term.
short
Right.
term, yeah.
Focus of the
So that won't
deadline,
work.
yeah.
So, yeah, so the
I think
question,
Some of them would want to stay on.
so, well, maybe the question is, maybe some of the 3 parks people would be interested in being on the rec committee,
Right,
but they're
probably
not
not all.
there yet. But you have a recruitment, now's the time to recruit. We need to know what your direction you want to head in. because I would like to recruit as much as I can. But
But you don't want to waste your
also-
energy recruiting if it's not gonna be a
Right.
3-town committee.
it was not gonna be a
anymore.
three-town committee. And what about a
Is
budget?
Committee anymore. There's so many committees.
That
Yeah.
overlap,
Yeah, that there's so much overlap. Is
True.
there a rec committee? Like, what is?
Do
the
you
rec
need a
committee
rec
supposed
committee?
to
Do you want me to ask
Guess we
that
should- I
question?
guess you should ask the
Kind of.
select board.
Okay, so I'll draft something. This is what I'll do. I'm gonna draft something and then
Okay.
I'll send it to you guys, but you only
Okay.
can reply directly to me.
Yeah.
Okay? Not to everyone else. And then that will go to Lisa. And Lisa will convey that and I'll just say, we're kind of on a tight timeline. So if you need us to recruit, we need to know now.
Yeah.
You
that
know,
would
but
be
if
good.
not, if you want to reorganize, now's the time to think about that.
You have the trails committee. What other
Right,
committees? are there
Well,
that kind of overlap?
gardening, I don't know, there's
Gardening, all, yeah. I mean,
must be some other ones too.
Gardening,
though.
parking,
volunteer. green.
Parking.
Parking,
rec oriented parking for the most part.
Yeah,
yeah. Now, the only thing that kind of puts it's kind of we're in a weird position because I feel like I also need to tell the 3 Parks Committee on the 14th that we're down to 1 member.
probably should.
I mean, I feel like I need to tell them that.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of like, okay, as of May, you're gonna be down to 1 member.
No, we should, because
We should tell
we're
them
not
that,
gonna be
Mark.
able to support you.
Yeah.
You're gonna email Lisa before then, right? So you'll
Yeah.
have maybe a little bit better idea of what the select board is.
Well, the 14th is next week, so I don't, yeah, so.
You might not
probably
email
won't.
Lisa before then, yeah. I don't know when the next select board meeting is, but.
Yeah, so I mean, it's better that's happening now.
Right.
So at least they know because they are thinking, yes, this is short term for us, even though it might be extended to November so we can figure out things. And they wanted help with engaging the community and we were gonna help them with that, but
It's
we've got-
Michael do it. No, I'm
we
just
got a
kidding.
limited amount of time. I mean, again, I have until May and, then it's gonna be done. And so
Great.
they need to start thinking about that.
Right,
Yeah, it's only 2 meetings you're talking about.
Yeah, right, April
is
and May,
March.
yeah.
I still think, I agree. And honestly, at this point, you almost want to just consider, short of some massive recruitment where everybody's like, oh, there's a rec committee, I want to be on it. Not gonna happen. We just close our doors anyways, and if anything reconstitutes, that's great. Something reconstitutes out of the 3 parks and like they want to carry the mantle and say, okay, we want to go past this ARPA money disbursement and continue on to make sure that the money they're spending on this infrastructure is going to be maintained and handled, then they basically will ultimately become the rec committee, and I can apply to join them. We'll change our name to the 3 parks instead of the 3 towns, and
right.
it'll be that. And if not, then there just won't be a rec committee, and until the select board deems it valuable to have a rec committee, which I'm not sure they do.
Sure, you could always have a.
I mean, it's
in the
kind of
future. If it
perfect.
stops
Perfect.
happening, it doesn't mean you can't have one in the future.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
4
Or
years.
things will slow down, Kirsten will move back into town, we'll we'll
Yeah.
reconstitute.
You got a house for me?
Get honorary membership.
Yeah, I wish.
all right, well, I think that's a good plan. And I think at this point, Mark, we had plans to talk about collaborating with other committees. But I think at this point, our main collaboration is with the 3 Parks Committee, and we just kind of,
Yeah.
and talking and coming up with our questions. So I think that we can come to a good, transition and end with this part of the process. But I mean, again, the select board needs to know what's going on and, yeah, and they have to decide, okay, how do we want to work this? And then we'll be open and honest with 3 parks. I mean, this is all recorded, so they'll know.
Well, even as as a member of the planning commission, I'm still interested in getting some sort of awareness resolution to the zoning regs for the flood hazard overlay district.
Right.
And I hope that some of you can attend the next Three Parks meeting so that we can have that conversation and at least begin to get that. So even if the rec committee dries up and the Three Parks committee dries up, this fall, we can have some information that can make some common sense modifications to the current flood hazard overlay district. And I can, carry that banner to the planning commission and hopefully
Yeah.
at some point get that addressed. But I think it would be good with all of our heads sort of wrapped around what we're looking at and what we're asking. I think we could pull some good things out and some guidance to at least move forward on the zoning for the
Yep.
flood hazard overlay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect ending to, yeah, and I have it on my calendar and I don't know if Kate can make it. And Jack, just hold off on, don't say anything to try to recruit to Bolton yet until we have a little more information.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right.
Thanks, thanks, Jack.
Okay, so our next meeting is the second, it'll be the three of us. So that's, okay, now, okay, how's this work? We're supposed to have 5 people.
I
but-
think as long as there's
There's
three
three
of
of
us,
us.
we have.
So
a
we're
quorum.
active until May, Mark, after May. We'll
Oh.
see what happens. That's okay.
I remember I was the only member of the planning commission for a couple of months following the zoning debacle of 2010.
Oh, is that
I
right?
remember, yeah, everybody after the zoning got defeated, everybody quit. They're like, I'm
my
done with this,
I-
so
I-
I've been there, done that.
Well, I truly have enjoyed my time with all of you. I mean, again, I do think we've done some
Yeah, me
wonderful
too.
things, but
I'm very grateful that what the contributions all 3 of you have made, and they're valuable. They're valuable
Yeah.
to the town. They're valuable to me. So I'm grateful for it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's
Like, we
really.
should make our own committee to do something. I don't know what it is. but
Really?
We got a pretty good team here.
You're part of the team, Mark.
Together, yeah.
So, April 2nd's our
Good
next
team.
meeting, so if, I can hear a motion to adjourn,
Motion, sure.
okay,
And
second,
we'll see some of you next Thursday.
I will be there.